Well, welcome everybody. We're here in sunny Melbourne. I wish it was sunny, but it's not. But we're having a fantastic time with a wonderful group of people today. And we're exploring the notion of understanding your life purpose. Today I have a very special guest with us, a guy who's flown in from overseas and given up his time this morning to come and share part of his life purpose with us. His name is David Batstone. He's a professor of business at the University of San Francisco. He's the author, I should say, of 7 books, and he's an entrepreneur himself, but he'll probably be best known around the world for being the founder and leader of an organisation, or a movement, I should say, called Not for Sale. Welcome, David.
Welcome, Malcolm. It's great to be here with you. And even, this is Melbourne. I love it. You wait a few minutes, the weather will change. It's a delightful place to be.
It's a good place to be. One of the best places on earth.
Absolutely.
Can you share with us a bit about your personal journey and how you actually came to be involved with, found and now lead Not for Sale?
Yeah, a lot of times career development or career professional counselors will say to you, find your career and then pursue that and develop it. And I guess I've always led with my passion. And that's gotten me in trouble, I must say. But I, in Africa, learned a saying or an aphorism that we don't mind stumbling because it makes us move forward more quickly. And so my life has been a series of successful failures. I've gone from one to another. And part of that then, I guess, I felt almost like I was tripolar. You've met bipolar people. Well, I'm tripolar. One of those aspects of things I love to do is I love to write, and I'm an academic. But I also became an investment banker and understood business and investment and generating wealth. And then for some strange reason, I had a third pull or passion was to spend my life helping the poor. So you don't meet a lot of investment bankers who also care about the poor.
It's pretty uncommon.
It is uncommon, and then you don't meet many academics who think there's actually a real world outside of the university. So bringing those three together took me about 20 years. And they came together when I discovered that a local restaurant in my neighborhood in San Francisco was a center of a human trafficking ring that had brought over 500 young kids, teenagers, from the country of India, Bangalore, into the United States for the purpose of slavery. And that changed my life.
Yeah, that certainly would.
Yeah. Well, and it was, after some time, it became a matter of, okay, this is an economic problem. Slavery takes advantage of economically vulnerable and desperate people. It's an educational problem. People don't know about it. When I tell people there are 30 million people living in slavery today in the world, they're shocked. It's education and it's about writing and teaching about a different kind of world. And then it also is about changing political culture. How do you change laws, rule of law, respect for those who are poor, the widow who can't get a judge to hear her, how does she get that judge to hear her? So it's about politics, it's about economics, and it's about education. I've been spending 20 years trying to put those together. Now here's the cause and the movement that really I was crafted for.
So how did you stumble into discovering that a great restaurant in a great city was actually the hub of a human trafficking network?
Yeah, I guess I wish I was attuned enough or smart enough to see that. I had to open up my newspaper one morning, and this trafficking ring. I had been going to this restaurant for years, and the young kids who were waiting on tables, washing dishes. I just didn't have the screen or the grid to see that they would be anything other than maybe members of the extended family who owned the restaurant. So when I opened my newspaper, I discovered that there's this gas leak in apartment buildings owned by the trafficker, where he kept 20 kids to a room. And when the police came, a young girl had died, another 2 were seriously injured. They're saying, "Get us out of here." I said, the gas. I have the gas from him. Not you, but yeah, him. And so, that's how it got discovered that these young kids had been trafficked. So this was such a shock reading that. Okay, it was right in front of me and I didn't see it. So where else could this be happening? I suppose one one gift or talent I have is something, well, my mother's not sure if it's a talent or a curse, but it's called curiosity. And it drove her crazy when I was growing up, because I always wanted to know why and how, where. But I just couldn't walk away from that. Some people would just say, I don't know if you've been to San Francisco, there's a weird place. And, it's eccentric, let me put it that way. And so you could walk away and say, there's one more eccentric thing that happened in San Francisco. But rather for me, it was, how can that happen in the 21st century? How can, over 500 kids had their destiny stolen from them? So I decided to start investigating that, just kind of on my side. And I discovered it was prolific, it was global, and I need to do something about it.
So you mentioned before 30 million people worldwide are being trafficked. Is that each year?
That's total worldwide. The estimates that the CIA gives, it's between 800,000 and a million new people trafficked every year. And so the aggregation of that, I went to, so I'm very practical in this way. I said, okay, I met kids from India, Bangalore, in my community. I'm going to go track backwards. So I went to Bangalore. And I met a family of four, I met a young girl. She was 12 years old on a plantation. And it was rice. And so she said, you want to meet my mother? And this young girl was a slave, so you got to meet my mother. And her mother was a slave and had been her whole life. And then she's going to meet my mother. And so then the last one, you're going to meet my mother. So I met 4 generations of women. All of them spent their entire life on that plantation.
4 generations in
4 generations in slavery. Wow. In Bangalore, India, rural area. So, what do you do with that? Yeah. And particularly, and I'm a person that I can't walk away from things. Again, that's my, every strength has the potential for being your weakness. It's hard for me to walk away from that. And so I said, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to take it on. And it's become my life vocation.
So what's, talking about to not for sale movement, what's a number of things you're currently involved in, initiatives you're currently doing?
Okay, so when I went around the world, I can tell you a story that got me there. So around the world, after Bangalore, I went to Thailand because in Los Angeles, there was a garment factory of about 90 women who had been forced to sew. They were locked in all night and then had to sew during the day. So I went from Los Angeles to Bangkok, just tracking, following the money. And I met a woman in Bangkok, the very north of Thailand, right on the border with Myanmar and Laos. Yeah. And she had rescued 27 kids out of slavery. And she was living in a field with just like palm leaves for their shelter. And I was so impressed with this woman and how brave she was and so few resources. She had no plan. She's got them out of slavery, but they had no place to take them. So I made a promise that I would build her a house. So I went back to San Francisco. I started writing a book. I was going to give all the proceeds to build her a house. I get a call. I'm in the middle of the book. And she said, David, there's 27 kids. Now there's 53. And I'm thinking, okay, this better be one damn good book. Okay, I got to build 2 houses here. All right. So now with new determination, that's what determination looks like when you're writing. I started writing this book, and before I can even finish the book, she calls me last time and said, now there's 88 kids. And I'm like, slow down on the rescues already, So I started Not for Sale as an agency, really as a response. So as an agency, as an organization, to raise money to build a village for Kurnan. And so, you go there today, and it's fantastic. It's, kids have shelter, they go to school. Over 150 kids are living there right now, but over the years, probably 400 have been there. They're going to university. It's just a very hopeful, inspiring place. But this is where having those other personalities besides the gene for compassion, yes, is that I could be at the end of a river and it's compassionate to pull people out of the river, but at some point you need to walk upstream and find out why they're falling in. That's justice. So there are some people who are wired for compassion. That's their passion, their gift, and they should do compassion. They shouldn't feel bad about the fact they're not going upstream. But there's some people who they want to go upstream, and you need both. And for some reason, I got that bipolar thing going. So it wasn't sufficient just to do that. I needed to go upstream, and so it meant, how do you address economic desperation, political vulnerability, and how do you give people security and a sense of future? And so that's where the entrepreneurship came in. Worked with Hugh Marquise, who's a member of the church that you go to, and Hugh and I started investing in companies that we would give jobs and futures to those who had been trafficked or were very highly vulnerable to trafficking. So those companies started, and so now I'm an investment banker for the poor.
Awesome.
I love it.
Fantastic. So, in working towards that purpose, one of the really interesting elements that we're talking about today is actually understanding yourself. And you mentioned a couple of things. One of your talents being curiosity. What are some other talents you've actually got that really play into this purpose?
Well, I suppose it's a talent to know what you're not good at. And so I'm pretty talented in knowing I'm not good at a lot of things. And so I don't try and do those things. I often get asked, how do you run 7 companies and not for sale, and how do you teach at university and also still write? It's just I find good people. And I find the right people for the right job. And so I would say if I had one really good talent, it's intuition about people's skills and capacity and potential, and how to unlock that. And so I can meet someone, and I can tell you within 5 minutes whether I think they could do a job, even if they don't know they could do that job. Now, I say that, the thing I'm not good at is I'm not good at actually teaching, mentoring them. You think it's funny as a professor, right?
Yeah.
I just don't have the patience. It's kind of like, look, you got the talent, just do it for God's sakes. And then they don't get quite where I think their potential is. I say, you haven't got there yet? For God's sakes, come on, man. So I think you have to, there's these shadows of those are strengths and weaknesses wrapped up in one kind of maybe sector or skill. So all to say that I think it's being able to, a leader is not about making decisions. A leader is not about power. A leader is about how you enable those around you to reach their potential. That's a leader.
Unlocking your potential.
That's right.
Yeah, brilliant. What are you passionate about?
I love baseball, cricket, and football. I love sports. I love outdoor activities. I love figuring out problems, that seem intractable. In the Amazon of Peru, you have people who are, living in such kind of economic and cultural desperation. Indigenous people. I have fun and I am impassioned to figure out how to end that exploitation. So it's not just, I'm not Mother Teresa, I'm not a saint, I'm just a problem solver. I like games. And I like doing them to empower people. And so for some reason I get satisfaction out of that. I'm not a materialistic person. I don't say that as a spiritual boasting. It's almost a stating of fact. I don't need a lot of comfort. I don't need another car. I mean, how do you drive 2 cars at once? There's only so many clothes you can wear. I'm not materialistically driven. If I generate wealth, it's generating wealth to solve a problem and sharing that wealth with those who don't have the opportunity to be a part of a rich future.
Fantastic. Most of us in life can be kind of 7 or 8 out of 10 on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you're 10 out of 10 on?
I suppose seeing patterns and articulating those patterns. So sometimes we call that visionary. It's not because that I have the power of revelation. It's just that I see pattern recognition. I see that things get repeated. I see how things are today and how they could be different. Mm-hmm. And to me, actually, it's I can see. In fact, I get impatient sometimes because I see a pattern and a trend. I'm an impatient. It should be there. I already see it's going to happen. Why isn't it there yet? It takes longer than I think it should. That's organizational development. That's personal development. And it's also cultural, national politics. So I guess that's probably my biggest dream. And then people say, "How do you know that?" Well, I just know. I see it.
Yeah. You mentioned vision. What's your vision?
My vision is to create platforms that others can play out their life on in a free way. So my vision is to be an enabler, to be an empowerer, is not to, I don't want people following me or quoting me. I want people to be able to find their own voice. I want people to be able to find their own passion and action in the world and be free to pursue that destiny. So I guess it's my vision is, as crazy as it is, I want to end slavery in the world today. I want those 30 million people to be free. I don't think poverty is a necessity in our world. I want to make a huge dent in that we think it's shocking when we find poverty rather than today. It's, of course, that's the way the world is.
Thinking about the mission by how you carry out that vision. What's the mission of your personal
Yeah, I
mission?
suppose, to me, mission is a dangerous word because mission is, it's almost a script that you don't deviate from, or we talk about mission, we talk about movement. I like movements better than I like missions.
Mm-hmm.
Missions tend to need priests and churches to be able to control them. Movements, all they need are sandals and a message. And so I'm much more empowered and I find inspiring movements than I do missions. Now, having said that, I think there is a interplay between creativity and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do see the need for institutions. I see the need for vehicles that get us somewhere. But the problem is when you think that the car is the actual movement rather than just the thing that is moving you where you should go. And so I admire people who are mission builders. I'm not one of them. I'm a movement person.
So effectively not for sale, it's almost your platform
It is.
to achieve your vision.
It really is. And it's, if you hung around not for sale for long, you'd see that, wow, Dave's not really controlling this. So I'm not. And that's when we get real difficulty when you try to do that. I was just with a great church, or I think a prophet, a guy's named Graham Cook, a church leader, he lives in the United States. And Graham was saying the same thing that about the church. In fact, he got rid of the building, he left his church, and now he's just meeting in cafes and restaurants. And he said, because I found the church became a block, or it prevented the creative flow of what the Spirit wanted us to do, because we were worried about how are we going to pay for the building, how are we going to pay. And that's the problem with missions, is that you try to maintain the mission rather than the movement. You need, and that's the contradiction, because you need mission to make movement happen, but it also can stifle movement, and you need to somehow have a healthy balance. That's why, some people take this Myers-Briggs test or other personality tests, and I think those are helpful to see that you need people who are real kind of black and white on things. You need people who see grays. You need them to be able to work together. You need people who are feeling oriented. You need people who are really sensate and hands-on. And I guess that's a body of Christ, is what we call the church. But you need a lot of different people. We're talking really about an apostolic church. It only works when you can celebrate the differences and embrace the fact that thank God that they are in my church, and thank God I don't have their skills.
We're all designed to live in community.
Is that even people who annoy us and drive us crazy? We need them in our life. Yes, that's my wife.
You can all vouch for that. Values are an important part of purpose. So, what are a couple of your core values?
In no matter what company or nonprofit or university that I'm a part of, there's certain core values that I really work hard at instilling. One is about that everyone should be a being for others. How are you a being for another? It's not about yourself. And I guess everything today is about, I remember a time when I would actually take pictures of other people. Now it's, people want to take pictures of themselves. That's part of that social media driven, right? They want to see themselves on Facebook. It used to be I go to church with students, the immersion church, like, hey, professor, I want to take a picture of you. And I was like, will you take a picture of me? I'm going to take your picture all the time. Okay, it's about being for others. It's not really about photographs. It's about seeing that you've been given a gift for a purpose, and that purpose is that God has created us for community. God has created us to be a part of living and celebrating creation. And that's a being for others. So one is a being for others. The other is about how am I going to help? How am I empowering you? It's about empowerment. How do I make it possible so that God's gifts come out in you? And how do I get satisfaction by seeing your gifts being expressed? Most of us live in an economy of limited good. Something good happens to you, I feel bad because it's not going to happen to me. So economy of limited good. Why aren't we living in an economy of abundance? So I have a core value about living in an economy of abundance and celebrating the empowerment of other people. And finally, and it comes out of the Gospels, is that I just believe that those who are broken, poor, outcast, those who are on the fringes of global economy, acceptable society, those who are the wrong caste, the wrong religion, the wrong in-group, those are the people we should be with. I think we are about bringing healing to the brokenhearted, to the broken bodies. And those are the cultural values that I carry.
Brilliant, brilliant. If you were to sum up in one phrase, what is your life purpose?
I suppose it's to be worthy of the gifts that were given me.
Fantastic. Well, David, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Really thank you for giving him your time. And it's really great to see you, and wish you all the best for the movement.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Great to be here.